Hi, this is Bobby Cobb from the Adams Center with another speaker preview. This weekend, we're really excited to have coming to us all the way from Hawaii, Nancy Shipley Rubin. A little bit of a tongue twister for me. Nancy's going to be not only our speaker on our Sunday morning gathering, but she's also doing a workshop Friday evening and a weekend workshop on Saturday and Sunday, all about leading from the heart, living from the heart, and integrating our heart space. So Nancy, would you share just a little bit about some of the things that you're going to be covering in each of those presentations, and what exactly is leading from the heart?
Leading from the heart means that your first initial response to anything comes right out of your heart. And so that when you're speaking from your heart, you're going to recognize that you have a relationship to your personal self. Here you are, this is who you are, and hopefully grounded, right? It's like the heart will help on that. And then you have these spiritual resources, a much bigger perspective and connection of what's going on. So if we truly want to recognize our own limitation, where we live in judgment, where we live in apathy, where we live in some kind of contained frustration, we need the medicines of the heart. So leading from the heart says that you're going to come first from that heart space, experience the bigger perspective of the moment you're standing in, and from that point, be able to deal with whatever is in front of you with a little more ease, a little more humor, and a lot more skillfulness, because your heart is gauged for that. And so what we feel is that we're at a time right now where we are ready to embrace our heart as an instrument and learn how to play it, and recognize that if there is anything in the world that is creating, shall we say, that level of contractions or negativity, it's all coming from some level of fear. And the sense of love expands. Love is warm. Fear is cold. Fear contracts. Yeah. And so you get caught in this sense of contraction. How do you see the world? From a threatening place. You be in fear, you're going to see threat. That's what fear is for, is to keep you safe.
Right.
But if we get habituated into fear fields because they are propagated too much around us, and we don't get enough warmth and we don't get enough expansion, then we're basically seeing the world from a very narrow, rather programmed place. And so when the heart comes in, it gives you a bigger perspective. It may acknowledge that, that you're seeing right now this experience through a projection, maybe through a deep hurt that may not be that hurt is here to hurt you. It may be that right now this hurt is here to help you build a new relationship to that place and heal. And that's where the heart will continuously step in for that healing space that goes, honey, I got your back. That's our heart is like best friend.
Right.
And so
it's like times that there are times when we should be fearful. If you're out there walking in the woods and you hear some branches breaking, could be a bear or a moose.
mm-hmm.
That fear is very appropriate, but there's other times that we're feeling fearful, that maybe that's just a symbol to us that we've come disconnected from that heart space, that we're not living from spirit anymore. Is that?
Well, you see, your heart, even when there is a fearful situation, your heart is going to give you the power and the ability to know what to do. And so that even if I am in a place of threat, if my heart's in the lead, my intuition will kick in very immediately. My energetic field will prepare me to deal with whatever challenge is in front of me. And I will be able at that point to move skillfully. They found this in earlier times where that if fear freezes you, it's like it makes you basically weakened. If we can have a fear that basically informs you, and that's what I feel fear is for. I actually have spent a lot of time learning about fear fields and getting conscious in them. And it's amazing to watch how they work. I mean, it's like, if you ever play in hypervigilance, I mean, you can see 30 miles, it's like it gives you a very, very magnetic and powerful sensory realm. If we don't have consciousness in that, then we're going to basically be caught in what they call the frozen aspects of fear. so that when your heart's engaged, your heart keeps it active. It lets you know you're in trouble, baby. You know, it's not the right time to go down that particular path. It communicates with that moose to let the moose know you're bigger than me and I totally respect you. You
Yeah,
know?
right.
And it's really different when you come to nature with a sense of a warm, open space versus a contracted, cold space. Animals know that. So if you come fearful, they may feel more threatened by you than if you come from a sense that you're just there to honor their space. And that's what I love about Alaska, is you have the opportunity to do that and to be skillful and to listen. And what I appreciate is that every time that I hear a sense of something that's happened, there's always a respect for that bear that said,
Yeah.
he was just trying to, get some food. It's like, too bad it happened to be, our buddy, but, and we all feel that, but that's the heart. That's the heart. So the thing that I find with the sense of letting the heart be in the lead, it doesn't mean that all the other emotions go away. It means that you have a much more skillful mentoring to whatever you are experiencing. And I think we're all waking up to that. What we find that's really important is to create an experience that allows you to actually feel it and get your map clear, so that we're not just talking about it, but we actually are saying, okay, there's a heart field. When we enter into this heart field, there'll be certain indicators that will tell me I'm there. There'll be indicators that tell me that I'm basically in the idea of the heart, but not actually activating that field. It's kind of like maybe I go to the kitchen, I've got a recipe. I have to accept the recipe is not the cake.
Right.
I'm going to eat that little card. Ain't going to taste too good, right? So I got to get in there and go, okay, this is going to tell me how to make a cake, not try to be the cake. And if we get principles mixed up with reality, we're basically trying to get a power that is going to give us exactly what we need to know, but it's not the experience itself. And
so you talk about the 3 phases. Could you just give us a thumbnail of each of those 3 phases?
Absolutely. It's like we feel there's 3 cycles that happen simultaneously in the heart. We have the awakening. The awakening says some part of me doesn't know I have a heart. Some part of me has lived closed or conditioned or in some kind of traumatic fear. And so I don't have any access to that heart place. It's just does not exist. So when I would go to it, I will feel black, empty, dark, depression, because
and that's what people, when they talk about having a broken heart, would that be?
It's not exactly that. It's like, it's more from the sense that when you get caught in your trauma and we say, go to your heart, you'll look at me like I'm an absolute weirdo, because you won't have one. I mean, you get that deer in the headlights almost look. If I don't have that reference point. So when we wake up, we realize that we have to accept that we are in this place and there's help available. Right? So that sense of whatever it takes for us to get to a point where we open for help and make that available. And that's the awakening, where you recognize that in this hurt, there are resources available. And you start waking up and giving permission to not be quite so prideful or quite so fearful, but to allow the energy within your own self to assist, to support, to nurture in some way. So that awakening process for all of us, we just keep waking up to different parts of ourselves, and we didn't even know we were closed. The second cycle is then, once we have awakened, there's a mentoring force that comes from the heart. Our heart tells us what's right. So I'm in a situation, I really don't know quite whether I should come or go. I listen to my heart. My heart says, go. And it's like, and then over here, I'll have all my reservations. Well, I don't know if I can afford it. I don't know if it's going to happen. And I come back and my heart says, just go. And it's like, and so that if I don't listen to this, just go, then I've missed an opportunity. And that what I found is, even with all of my considerations, when I followed my heart and did what it encouraged in that deep feeling sense that went, this is right, it always worked out. Just always worked out. If I didn't, and I had plenty of times where it was like, it was just sounded too much like a good idea and I couldn't take the risk, that I would find myself in a place of kind of depression. It's almost like I lost a certain connection to that heart place that I had to then rebuild back up again. So that mentoring process is something that we learn to trust. Can we trust our heart? Sounds good, and then you have to put it to practice. And my feeling is that when you're listening to your heart, we're not listening to a fantasy. about what would be the wonderfulness. We're listening to a simple, usually 1 to 3 words that the heart will speak. And it's like, and from that point, you'll feel grounded. You'll feel the information you are being given is obvious. And it's like, there's not a big mystery around the heart. The
Right.
heart comes very direct, very clear. If I'm going to hear a long story about what it is, I am in my analytical mind.
That's right.
You know, I love my analytical mind. It's very busy. It does a lot of talking. It likes to talk. Can we talk some more? You know, so it's like, I love that part, but that's not my heart. And so that often you'll end up having this conversation between your heart space and your analytical mind. So that what I love is they say that when you are basically, our analytical mind is asking questions. Our heart gives us the answers.
Mm.
And that allows us to have that discernment. And because hearts just not having discernment is what is given the heart kind of a questioning sense. That it's like, did you follow your heart or did you follow a fantasy? And so that sometimes we don't know the difference. So we found in the heart is the center balance point. That with the connection that my heart then is my nurturing mentor to my personal self, it's also, the heart is the grounding cord of spirit. So that all the powers of principles and all these different levels of resource that we have spiritually available, they filter down into the heart. If they act without the heart, then there's a part that often has a sense that we're following a dream that may not have all the resources that it needs.
Mm.
So that if I, it's like, if I'm given a wonderful idea, I have to bring it to my heart and find out, am I ready? Is this right for me? If my heart says, no, it's time to wait, that means there's more resources or more of a grounding development necessary for this sense of it to unfold. And that sometimes we've had a sense where we have what I call the springtime heart, which the springtime heart is kind of like the Cinderella story. It's that here we have the sense that, she's sitting by her little chimney and she's going through her whole sense of questioning of self. She dreams and realizes her deep sense of self. So she gets to go to the ball. Springtime heart is that level of going to the ball, to being able to experience what's possible. It doesn't last. We remember, the clock strikes 12, right? We remember, right? And it's like, and so when I'm in a springtime space, it's like I can know at that point, everything will seem possible. It's just, there's a huge amount of energy in it. I encourage people in their springtime heart to write it down, because you won't always remember when you wake up and go, what was that? Do I really want to do that? That sort of question. So that when we're in a sense that we come through that springtime heart, that drops it out of the sense of this all potential space and says, what are you ready for in your potentiality? So in the Cinderella story, if we talk in kind of more of a visionary place, her moment of with the prince was in a visionary, beautiful experience world that she was given. Then when she came back, she had to go through all of her personal, most limiting issues. Her evil stepmother, her jealous stepsisters, all the things that we would hold ourselves in limitation for, she had to step through that in herself before she could then go be equal with her own true sense of soul identity. And that process is what we go through often when we get a bigger vision. And it looks so easy and so simple. And then we get out there, we're going to climb Denali Mountain, right? It's a beautiful idea until you wake up at 4 a.m. You're going, what? Whose idea was this?
Right,
Where's the coffee? It's like that kind of thing. And then you actually go through this endurance element that is not attributed to the heart, but this endurance element is equally as powerful and nourishing in its learning curve. So we think of the heart as 4 seasons. And so we have that summer, which is that endurance level. We have the sense of our harvest time. And then we have our spiritual resting time, which is the gorgeous. I love being in the winter space here in Alaska because it calls for that kind of renewing element. Everything gets very quiet. The nights are long. There's a deep kind of nourishing aspect. And that nourishes the heart and also allows us anything that's no longer working, it gives us the opportunity to give it away. So that's all in that second cycle that allows us to be mentored, to sort out the fact from fantasy, to understand how to deal with some of these bigger aspirations, rather than feeling that as soon as it gets hard, then it betrayed me somehow, and be able to have that deeper level of connection. Once you get the sense of understanding this level, the third cycle that we spoke of here is, it's the energy of becoming. Now, the first reference that most of us have of this reference of becoming is when some really deep emergency happens. And suddenly your heart takes over and you know exactly what to do. And you know exactly what needs to happen. Your senses are awakened. And so if we hear there's a family emergency and that someone's hurting, our body responds immediately, succinctly, and connected. And it's like in that, I take action. There is no question. I don't think about it at all. I know exactly what I need to do. I know the resources to get to, and it's a pristine state of awareness. We call that the state of becoming because we're growing into it. But really at that point, you are the heart chakra. There's no someone telling you what to do internally.
Right.
You
And
are
there's no
that
doubt.
field.
There's no second thought. You just know
You just know.
immediately and intuitively that this is the right thing that I need to be
Yes.
doing now.
Absolutely. And in that point, it's like that space is something that I feel we need to grow into more. But we would need to know the aspects of the heart. We need a heart map right now that gives us a sense of knowing the aspects of the heart, so that I can tell in the sense of where is information coming from when it comes into me. But if you have these sudden aspects of becoming, it's like there is no question, and everything, it's like the heart is the knower, everything is there. And it's exquisite. It really is.
That's
And
beautiful.
I feel more and more, it's like for me, I'm more in the mentoring phase. And so that every day I'm listening, I'm checking, I'm recognizing, what am I doing with my power in this moment? What's taking place in my environment that I need to be a little bit more aware of?
Right.
And, it's like, how can I enjoy going out and eating my mango, the joy of Hawaii,
Yeah.
so that there's a sense of a personal appreciation and connection to every moment. It's that aspect of gratitude, as well as this deeper sense of knowing that comes from the heart. I feel that the work that not only myself, but everyone I meet is working on is mentoring it to a point where we absolutely live in a trust that doesn't go blind. It's a trust that wakes us up. And so that's the third phase of it. And it's, as I said, we all have had experiences of it, but it's like, how can we make this pretty much everyday wear without getting too arrogant about any of it? Because it's like, if it gets arrogant, then we're talking about it, we're not being it. And
right.
It gets narrower in the path as we go along. It's like, so you learn how to keep it human, keep it connected.
Yeah. I love that. And I really appreciate you making the time and sharing this morning and giving us this overview. So for people who are listening to the video, there's 3 opportunities to see Nancy this weekend. She's going to be at our normal gathering at the Adams Center from 9:30 to 10:45. She's going to be giving a preview of the workshop on Friday night. And I'm sorry, Nancy, I don't know when that is starting. Do you know the time on that?
7 to 9:30. And what we'll do is we will cover in detail what we talked about here today with more, just a little bit more time to it, a little more personal experience because we're together. And we'll have time for questions if there are some. And just, it's a beautiful time. We need to gather together. It's important because the energy field is different when we are in the same room.
Yep,
Two or more others together. Yeah.
Yeah, the community and the coherence, it's a totally different experience. No.
Sometimes that Friday night is all, people can do or come to the Adams Center. It's like, and you'll get a real full cup. It's just a matter of, your timing and your availability to, what's important.
And those that want to take a real deep dive, you've got the workshop on Saturday and Sunday. Can you give us just a short preview of that?
What we do there is we take a look in the awakening process of what actually is waking up in you and what is your relationship to that, and being able to get a sense of, sometimes when we have things that are waking up in us, we have a little threat around them. It's like they're going to make us change in a way that we're really not quite certain that we're inviting that in, so that any resistance or a sense of aversion toward the places that have to change become the problem. The change is not the problem. Your relationship to this change is what basically is the problem. So if the universe said it's time for you to change and you go, I don't think so, then what happens is your resources of your old world start to dwindle. It's like if you had a well and you were taking all the water out of it and the universe said, we need a new well here. And you go, no, I'm going to keep going on to the other one. After a while, you're going to run dry.
Drain that well.
And it's like, and so that what the universe does is it says, there's no water over here in your old world. All the water is over in your new world. You want to go to water, go to your new well. And so that if we get the right relationship to the changes we're going through, then that resistance and aversion can be a power that actually propel us forward. But it's like what I found in that awakening piece, and this is, we do this on Saturday, is we have to be able to identify without demonizing. We have to understand, in some ways, I love understanding the demonizing process and how that works, because often it is our demons that make us grow, because we have to. So it's all that relationship to waking up to your potential, and then being able to understand, when is it that it's strengthening you, and when is it that you feel that it's basically challenging you? And so if you're getting challenged, it's like weightlifting. Yeah, get out there and be willing to start embracing that, and let's get stronger, because that means there's an even stronger light that wants to come through you.
It's coming through, that's right.
And it's like, and so the resistance or the darkness is basically weightlifting. You know, we go work out so we can climb that mountain. And that's the universe in a very interesting kind of way, preparing us to come into a much more integral, whole nature in ourselves. And so that when we see resistance or problems or situations in a way that allow us to understand they're not comfortable, but they will make us grow. You know, it's like, and often when you're working out, the hardest part of working out is get your shoes on. And once you get your shoes on,
to the gym.
You know, you're going, I should do this every day. This is fabulous, right? It's like, so that Saturday really gives us the sense we can get our shoes on and then get comfortable keeping them on so that we move with it. Then we develop more that it's like in the sense that we're coming to the space of becoming. You know, we get the mentoring voices so we know which. You hear it in tone, where you're coming from and what you're listening to. And then we come to the sense of that deeper level of becoming, where we introduce principles with the energetic fields associated to it, so that you actually get experiences of things. And most of the time in that level, when we're in the group, it's just strong enough to become tactile and real. Some of these states you need to have a certain kind of support, right? So the support first comes from the power of your awakening, right? Because you got yourself up and you're strong and you're ready to go. Then we have the mentoring element that says, this is you learning how to be yourself in a much deeper level than you may have ever thought you were. And then over here, this is you getting comfortable with a larger range of perception and power. Because the heart is here to teach us how to be wise, really.
And if we can live from that, though, the wisdom is just going to flow.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
Through.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like water running downhill. That's what I say.
I like that. I like
that. So that it's so that's the weekend just gives us a much deeper penetration aspect.
And I know we've got it on our website and we've got it on the meetups. Do you have a website that's got some information about this weekend as well?
I do. It's like Rubin, RUBIN, enterprises.info is or you can just Google me under Nancy Shipley Rubin, and it'll take you right to all the details, how to get to the Atom Center and Center on Sea, and then the timing and the costs and everything is there. Awesome.
And just put the address out there. It's at 6000 C Street at the corner of C Street and Dowling. So that's 7:30 on Friday.
7 o'clock. 7
o'clock. Thank you. 7 o'clock on Friday, 9:30 on Sunday morning. And if you're interested in doing the full workshop this weekend, that's Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday, Sunday, 11 to 6. we, it's like we do banker's hours. So, and then we go out and we have a lunch. So
Wonderful. Well,
yeah.
we're very much looking forward to you being here, and thank you very much for
Oh,
taking the time this morning to give us this little preview of coming attractions.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mm.